I'm your senior judge for today. And in this part of the competition, you are taking on a fictional business identity and assigning to us, the judges, also a fictional business identity. Who are we supposed to be? So please make sure everybody knows who you are and what role we have in this phase of the presentation. You'll have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem, and to recommend a solution that passes muster on all three counts. During this time, we will not interrupt you. When you're finished, we'll have 10 or 15 minutes to interrogate you, to some simple Q&A still in our characters as the role you assign to us. So whenever you're ready, you can start.
All right. Hello, and thank you for being here. Today, I invite you to explore a groundbreaking initiative that not only aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but also promises, also promises a tangible solution for our current urban and environmental challenges. Join us in creating the fabric of change, paving the way for actionable solutions to combat climate change. Your presence is a commitment to shaping policies that can truly impact the fate of our planet. Let's not just talk about change, let's initiate it together. Now let's meet our Green Horizon Consulting team. I'm Grace Shardle, Sustainable Development Compliance Manager.
My name is Mariana Pinzon, and I'm the Risk Management Advisor.
My name is Andres Pena, and I am the Sustainable Development Advisor.
My name is Chris Payne. I'm the Financial Risk Advisor.
And I'm Alyssa de la Cerda, the Governance and Compliance Specialist.
And our mission at Green Horizon Consulting is to reduce carbon emissions through innovation, collaboration, and a steadfast commitment to environmental stewardship. Next slide. Here we have a brief overview of some of the topics we will be covering today. Now, as you know, Covanta is reshaping the current landscape with an innovative approach to waste management. Your business has allowed for a way to repurpose waste into energy, giving it a new life and encouraging a cradle-to-cradle economy. Your work at Covanta is inspiring and creating change in so many ways. However, despite Covanta's work, climate change and pollution continue to be a problem. As the issues become more pressing and the market becomes more competitive, we would like to propose an economic venture to push the boundaries of your already impressive work. Green Horizon Consulting presents Waste to Watts. This plan uses Covanta's repurposed energy to power electric vehicle charging stations. Many EV charging installation companies currently outsource their power through utility companies, often using unsustainable practices in mining and creating energy. Covanta already has a means of creation, and now we want to market their energy as a profitable end product. Your company has the potential to expand into this growing market and to be a leader, not just in waste management, but also in sustainable transportation. We want to help take Covanta to the next level through partnership with us and other companies working to further the agenda for sustainable cities and communities. We plan to focus in California, where there are already established Covanta plants and legislation incentivizing the shift to electric vehicles and a demand for EV charging stations. As I mentioned earlier, many companies offer partnerships to build EV charging stations, which would cut back on the initial investment of building the charging stations and allowing for an instantaneous profit. The market for EV charging stations is projected to rise tremendously, not to mention the overarching urban benefits of efficient waste management and accessible transportation. Now more than ever, there is a need for efficient waste management, given that the total generation of municipal solid waste in 2018 was 292.4 million tons. That is 4.9 pounds per person per day. The consumerist culture is only inhibiting the generation of more waste which ends up in landfills and emits harmful greenhouse gases as it decomposes, causing a number of environmental ramifications. These harmful greenhouse gases are also being produced by the burning of fossil fuel to create fuel. The majority of California's CO2 emissions is caused by transportation, as you can see on this graph. Now, California is one of the states leading the way to make the shift to electric vehicles to reduce greenhouse gas, but they need your help to reach their goals. They need access to more reliable and more sustainable transportation now. Covanta is already doing the work and investing in the future. Let us take your operations to the next level and help Covanta do well by doing good. Next, my colleague Alyssa will walk you through the legal implications of waste to watts.
Thank you, Grace. So now we will look at the legal implications and incentives that come with adopting our waste to watts proposal and expanding your renewable energy sources in order to power electric vehicle charging stations. So the first regulation I'm going to talk about is the Inflation Reduction Act. As you may know, the passage of this back in 2022 signaled a turning point in electric vehicle adoption by providing incentives for all parties involved in powering these stations. It is important to distinguish, though, that the Inflation Reduction Act is not a regulation, but rather an incentive that will push the demand for EV cars and subsequently the need for your energy. This positions you at Covanta to be the leaders in the expansion of EV charging stations, since you are already in locations throughout California and the rest of North America to partner with stations and increase the demand for your energy. The data on the left was gathered by a team of academics and professionals in the private sector across the US and show that not only are emissions going to lower dramatically through this act, but energy costs are going to fall up to $52 billion by the year 2035. With this threat to Covanta's profit, it's imperative for you to expand your portfolio beyond just providing energy to homes in order to support this growth of up to 82% of electric vehicles for the longevity of Covanta. Also, this act extends the renewable energy production tax credit, which provides up to $2.75 per kilowatt hour of electricity generated from qualified renewable energy sources, such as you guys as Covanta. This means that expanding operations within just one plant in Los Angeles to accommodate generating electricity for charging stations will also increase the tax credits that you receive while positioning your company to withstand this change to electric vehicles. The next regulation I want to talk about is the Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulation. This one I assume you may be familiar with, as the state of California has pledged that by 2035, all new passenger cars sold in the state must be zero emissions. This act is going to boost the amount of electric and hybrid passenger vehicles in the state, resulting in an even higher demand for clean energy. This is greatly beneficial to you at Covanta, since your product is projected to rise in demand in the state of California dramatically over the next decade. And as consumers are becoming more conscious of their environmental footprint in response to our climate crisis, the demand for clean energy will soar as well. The next act I want to talk about is the Justice 40 Act. So our federal government has additionally made it a goal that 40% of clean energy flows to disadvantaged communities that are historically marginalized and underinvested and overburdened by pollution. As part of this initiative, the U.S. Department of Energy has pledged to give funding opportunities to companies who can generate clean energy for the benefit of disadvantaged communities, which is where you at Covanta will step in. This map here displays what the federal government has outlined as high-risk communities most affected by pollutants, and I would like for you to see this map as a map of opportunity for you at Covanta to expand your reach and serve these communities with your waste to electricity facilities. This act provides opportunity not only for incentives, but it's also a goalpost which you at Covanta can position yourselves to both benefit from and aid in achieving. You all have the power to create a more equitable and cleaner future for all Americans and lead the world in waste to energy in a way never done before in the world. The next regulation law I want to talk about is the Renewable Portfolio Standards. So this was established in 2002, but California specific Renewable Portfolio Standard requires that electric providers ensure that renewable energy constitutes a specific minimum portion of their electric load. And since then, the California State Legislature has modified, increased, and accelerated the RPS several times, resulting in one of the most ambitious renewable energy standards in the country. Senate Bill 100, which was recently passed, has increased the RPS to 60% by 2030, with new interim targets of 44% by 2024 and 52% for 2027, which we are on target to reach. This bill further requires that all of the state's electricity comes from carbon-free resources by 2045. This gives Covanta a great advantage, as utilities will be eager to expand partnership in the clean energy sector to meet the demands of this program. In positioning yourselves ahead of the curve, the benefits will shortly follow. And finally, the last standard I want to talk about is the low carbon fuel standard, which is a rule designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution from all forms of transportation in the country. For electricity, the electric distribution companies can opt in to claim tax credits for residential and non-residential EV charging stations. Additionally, the electric vehicle service provider can opt in to claim tax credits as well. This sets the stage for a mutually beneficial partnership between Covanta, electric distribution utilities, and EV charging station providers, where costs are subsidized and reduced overall. With legal incentives, though, we also want to relay the potential barriers that can come with this idea, how we foresee these challenges to be worked through. To help with that, I will pass it to our talented risk management advisor, Mariana Pinzon.
Thank you, Elisa. So considering potential barriers is essential for Green Horizon Consulting, since creating and using clean energy to power EV charging stations might pose different challenges that, if identified beforehand, Covanta can be more prepared to implement this initiative. So by recognizing these obstacles in early stages, we create an opportunity to develop new strategies and to overcome them, reducing the likelihood of the project delays, maybe paying unnecessary costs or even failure of the project. The first challenge that we identify of utilizing clean energy to power EV charging stations is establishing agreements between Covanta and EV charging stations, as well as any other stakeholder involved, because sometimes negotiating these terms of power purchase agreement, maybe waste or even revenue sharing agreements can be complex and time consuming. Therefore, Green Horizon Consulting considering essential for us to engage with legal professionals experienced with contracts and negotiating for us to draft a clear and mutually beneficial agreement. Through this expert guidance, we can ensure that our project agreements address key issues such as pricing, liability, duration, and even performance metrics for everyone to have clear information about everything. Additionally, to avoid contractual disagreements, we recommend fostering open communication and collaboration with all the parties, and also we'll be building this trust and be able to solve any potential conflicts. Related to the legal aspect, the second challenge we identify is how waste-to-energy systems and EV charging infrastructure can also involve risks. So this includes equipment malfunctions or even potential accidents. So when I say malfunction, I'm talking about breakdowns of the components themselves, so failures in boilers, turbines, generators, or even grid connection systems, which can disrupt our operations, your operations, and compromise the safety of workers or customers. When referring to potential accidents, we are considering workers that will be involved in waste handling, combustion processes, and even maintenance of machines, because they could be exposed to dangerous materials because they're working with waste, and also chemicals that might lead to health concerns and even respiratory issues, chemical exposure, and even physical injuries. To overcome this, we suggest, again, developing a comprehensive risk plan in collaboration with insurance providers and legal advisors to clearly define these risk allocations and the roles and responsibilities of each stakeholder. And this coupled with a revision and improvement of your safety protocols to make sure that we have the appropriate maintenance procedures and also adequate training. We plan also to include in this risk management plan we will like to consider personal protective equipment and detailed instructions for the customers to operate the chargers. This, of course, all to minimize potential liabilities and ensure that Covanta continue to be an example of compliance with occupational health and safety regulations. Moving to the next challenge, we are considering how the community will react to this initiative. So maybe local communities may raise concerns about the environmental impact of the project, health risk, and even aesthetics, because the EV charging station is going to be in their space. So we hope that if we do and implement proactive community engagement strategies, we can address and foster public acceptance by educating how Covanta is gonna help the environment and is gonna actually clean spaces. To make this possible, we think you should again include and provide transparent information about the project benefits, environmental precautions, and the mitigation measures that I already mentioned. And finally, we consider it very important to seek input from the community themselves to address their feedback and incorporate any community concerns and preferences into the project and implementation as well. So by proactively understanding and addressing these potential barriers, we can allocate and you can allocate your resources properly, whether it's time, budget, expertise, or any other resource for us to make this waste to watts a reality. Now I'll pass it on to Chris, who will explain more about why this project is also financially beneficial for you.
So hello, everyone. Thank you, Mariana. I will be taking over as I'll go throughout the financial analysis of the details, going through market projections, revenue, investment cost, return on the investment, advantages, and limitations associated with this project. So now, as we can see the revenue graph, on the left, we have the annual growth. So from 2015 and 14, the overall company has gone up by around 15%. And that's quite a notable shift. Looking towards the future, and I'll go into the market projections, but it will increase heavily, as well as the revenue on the right. We can see per year as it increased from 2020 to 2021. And for looking in the future, Covanta is a straightforward decision, and especially its established presence in the market makes it a reliable and trusted brand. Now, as to the market projections, now looking into the waste to energy market size, we can see from 2022 to 2032, it almost doubles. So looking towards this push towards sustainability, we can see that there's also financial benefit. As to the electric vehicle industry, the market is also projected to see substantial growth. As to last year, the EV sales reached a market share of 8%. However, this figure could climb up towards to 60% over the next decade. And also, quite a big portion of it is the investment cost. It will be significant and encompassing various factors, including operating expenses, maintenance and operations, financing expenses, as well as charging station costs. But before I go into it, I want to focus on the competitors as well. One of the largest competitors in the market would be Loyola, as you can see how much they spend in R&D on this graph. So from 2010, it's gone lower. However, in 2021, they also had a merger with another waste to energy competitor, which increased by double in 2022. So also Loyola has an annual revenue of $45 billion, really significant, putting a significance on the importance of this industry. Now, as to the components, we can look at operating expenses, which will be labor, operations, maintenance, as well as utilities, such as electricity, water, insurance. Then we'll look at financing cost, whether the project is financed through debt, equity, as well as insurance payments. This will all have to factor into the investment. Now, to consider this, the price of a basic charging station, it's estimated that it can range from 10,000 to 50,000. But this also factors in equipment type, location, which states you're going to have it in, the installment requirements, and it's also important to put Covanta's renewable energy supply, as it may charge additional expenses, as well as different location, so it may vary from cost to cost. Now, as to the next slide, which is return on investment, there is a lot of potential given the trajectory of both the EV sector as well as the waste to energy sector. You're probably anticipated to return to make these finances back. Now, as to the graphs on the right, we'll look at ChargePoint, which is an EV charging station, which is the biggest in the US, and they charge by type. So we can focus on whether it's subscription-based, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, or through a network charged. So in a mall or a community center or offices, these are the different subscription and revenues from these companies. Now, as to the advantages and limitations, the energy security, which is renewable, it doesn't cost to have these sources, as wind is free, but the waste supply will be probably increasing throughout the future, as this will bring more stable revenue, as well as the market projections, as I mentioned, with EV, as well as waste to energy. Now, as to the limitations, this will probably be a high investment cost, looking at towards a couple of charging stations in California, looking also in a competitive market with Loyola and Suez, which is highly competitive, and finally looking in different locations with regulatory uncertainty, so upcoming laws that we cannot predict. So, however, despite these challenges, the advantages definitely outweigh the limitations, and it is also crucial for Covanta to capitalize on this opportunity. Financially, it makes sense. And also passing it on to the next slide with Andres, who will be summarizing this project.
Thank you, Chris. Once again, my name is Andres, and I'm the Sustainable Development Advisor here at Green Horizon Consulting. I feel like as we head towards the end of this presentation, I feel like it's essential to sort of like give off a recap of the immense potential benefits that this operation could have within Covanta, but in a society as a whole. Firstly, we can go for the financial benefits, which our talented advisor, Chris, has went through. That obviously there will be considerable investment costs within this, making this EV infrastructure a reality, whether that be through, let's say, infrastructure development, partnership costs, technological integration, or maintenance and operations. But I feel like in general, we should keep in mind as well that the potential returns for this could be immense. I think the estimates will be around 95 to 190 million annually, like per year, which also keep in mind, that is only a conservative estimate. So it could be much greater than what it is already. And I don't think that's a far-fetched idea either, given the fact that the energy market is a rapidly growing sector within the US economy. Specifically, how recent data has shown that obviously the current value back in 2022 was around 42 billion, but by 2030, the expected value within this energy market could be hovering at around 60 to 80 billion. So I think there are immense financial benefits with this. Off to the ethical benefits, our waste to wasp proposal sort of ultimately helps in countering the consumer's culture, which is very prevalent within this country, and also sort of like redefines the way waste is. It sort of like eliminates the idea of waste because they are repurposed into something new, something innovative.
You have 2 minutes to go.
Okay, and then also that's ultimately beneficial for the environment as a whole. Not only does it curb environmental degradation through eliminating any further greenhouse gas emissions from these landfills, I feel like it would also help in furthering the Justice 40 initiative, which sort of helps in uplifting underlooked communities within large urban sectors. And And I think it also helps out in sort of emphasizing that people ultimately have a social responsibility within this factor, because we're the ones that are ultimately sort of like contributing to this waste. And I feel like it's important to also look into how sort of like Covanta's goal and mission sort of correlates with the SDG which we're going through, which is SDG 11, creation of cities, human settlements that are ultimately inclusive, safe, resilient, and also sustainable as well. I feel like going into Covanta's goal, I feel like this perfectly correlates with Covanta's goal and sort of driving innovation and facing, and that's also facing the challenges that they're present with it. So I feel like this ultimately helps the company sort of like reaching new heights and sort of what they represent as a large energy company. And sort of like to ensure that no waste in a way is sort of like ever wasted. And it shows within the progress that they've done. Recently, over 100 million gallons of wastewater has been recycled annually, as well as 1.1 tons of material have been reused or recycled per year. It also states how Covanta's goals in sustainability isn't really about business, but also offers a different perspective in which they have a social responsibility as well. This social responsibility goes into hand with the SDG goal and ultimately creating a much more sustainable and environmentally healthier society as a whole within urban centers.
That's the 25 minutes, so if you could finish up, that'd be
Gotcha.
great.
Gotcha. This ultimately shows that Covanta is sort of more than capable of transforming the way that transit systems function because of the mindset they ultimately inherit. So in conclusion, I like to end off with this quote here, which is do well by doing good with Green Horizon Consulting. Covanta has a major opportunity in completely transforming the way energy is generated for sustainable modes of transit, a more circular, and specifically in creating a much more circular economy in which we eliminate the very concept of what waste is, since it can be repurposed with a new sense of value. And lastly, presents opportunity in creating sort of like much more of a equitable society for the upliftment of communities within the Justice 40 initiative, as well as countering climate change effects of greenhouse gases. We hope you consider our innovative plan and hope to hear back from you very soon. Thank you and have a good day.
So I have a question. If we're taking landfill material to turn into, I guess, electricity, isn't there waste that comes from processing the landfill? What happens to that waste?
Yeah, so through Covana's waste to energy proposal, there's actually no waste that is generative. It's truly innovative, the way that you at Covana have been able to create the system in which there really is no waste that ever gets wasted, and it's all turned into energy. And anything that is not able to be turned into energy, such as heavy metals or hazardous contaminants or anything like that, biomedical waste, for example, will be recycled in the safest way possible in order to minimize the entirety of the waste. So there is no additional waste that is generated from these facilities.
Yeah, so we really dig into your mission, and then according to the mission, you promise to use all the waste and not make sure that waste is not a waste. So that's why we're trying to like clean all these landfills. As we talk about the Justice 40, we want to clean communities, and we have to do this together to clean spaces and get done with those landfills.
Hello. Some great insights. Can you go into a little bit more specificity on how the waste is procured and how the community is engaged to provide that waste and how it is then translated into wattage?
Yeah, sorry, I can answer that. So Covanta, as you know, you gather waste from landfills in municipal areas. So all across North America, you guys have over, I believe, 300 plants currently that operate straight from landfills. So your facilities are located right next to those community centers and those high-risk areas. And so any trash accumulated by community members that eventually accumulates in landfills is touched by Covanta and transported to these waste to energy facilities, in which through a circular kind of process, you guys transform that into steam, which is then powering electricity, which you then currently send out to power homes in low-income neighborhoods across the country, and also to power offices, residential buildings, things of that nature. So with this proposal, we want to kind of expand on that operation that you already currently have and use your energy not only to power homes and businesses, but to power electric vehicle charging stations in order to get more into the transportation sector of renewable energy. So in a way, community members are always involved. I mean, in any form of renewable energy, they're renewable and natural sources, right? The sun is always going to be here. Hopefully, wind will always be here for solar power, wind power, all those things. But waste to energy truly is innovative in the sense that it's the first renewable energy source in which people and the average consumer, the average person who, you know, drinks a few water bottles a day, who eats out, who makes trash in their day-to-day, 4.5 pounds, as Grace mentioned, per day, per person. Everybody's kind of like involved in this process of generating waste, and everybody has a hand in creating this, in filling landfills. And so by expanding operations, we hope to increase your presence in landfills to minimize even more waste, so that community members are not only contributing to the fuel that you guys are turning into electricity, but also benefiting from it through their use of electric vehicles.
Just to go off of that, and I think in a sense we're being reactive to the waste management industry so that we can be proactive and reach into the transportation industry and helping California reach their 2035 goals with sustainable transportation.
Thank you. Great presentation. Really enjoyed it. I have a two-part question. So the first part is, how will Covanta connect its energy output into existing energy grid and manage the challenges associated with, like intermittent power supplies? And the second part to that is, what kind of partnerships would be essential for success? Be it charging partnerships, government agencies, local utilities. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Covanta, you guys currently already do a lot of great work working with local utility companies in the various cities and states that you operate with. So within your plants at Covanta, you already have direct electricity lines in which your waste to energy kind of is then transported into cities. So with that, this plan hopes to just expand that a little bit. Of course, not to overload the grid or anything like that, and to make sure that it's all still being very sustainable. So we would work very closely with local energy providers, energy utilities, local governance. All of that would be the closest partnership that we would have. Only the second closest partnership that we would have would, of course, be with the charging station providers. For example, EVgo is a very popular electric vehicle charging company that has plenty of locations throughout Southern California, for example, and I imagine many more throughout the entire state of California. So we would work very closely with a company such as that to ensure that the energy has places to go, of course, that there are charging stations for which our energy will be able to go to and provide energy to these cars, to these electric vehicles. So we would work very closely, like I said, with local governance, local energy utilities and facilities professionals, and also, of course, electrical vehicle charging stations.
Jeff,
Thank you very much. Saga, you kind of asked a question out to ask about partnerships, and I'm happy of the way they have been addressed. But I may want to ask this group, how will success look like at the end of the day? How will you know that you have been successful? And in this perspective, I would want to know about the kind of prosperity that you would want to enjoy after doing all this good work, the people that you're going to impact, the numbers that are there, the environment, and partnership has been asked, and perhaps also the question of cross-cutting issues. You had mentioned inclusivity as one of the aspects that you wanted to achieve. We know we always have some minority who are not able to get into these solutions so easily. Particularly, we are talking about gender, women, and so forth. Maybe you can also mention about how you're going to enhance that particular aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think like answering maybe and like trying to comment more on like the inclusivity part. Of course, we know that with EV charging stations, we are not really providing transportation to many people. Like it doesn't mean that directly like by having charging stations, more people is gonna buy EV vehicles, because we know that this represent costs, and like a lot of members in the community have not the resources to do it. So, but then like our idea, and with your collaboration, it's gonna be that if we provide more charging stations, maybe car manufacturers are gonna produce more, and they're gonna have they're gonna want to improve and increase their sales. So ultimately, all the vehicles have to be recharged EV vehicles. So we hope that with this this facilitation of more EV charging stations, car manufacturers are also incentivized to produce more, sell more, and at the same time, like produce and give vehicles at a better price. Yeah, and also I wanted to mention again about the part of the community. We really think that this plan hopes to clean spaces for vulnerable people, and like there's a disproportionate like amount of people that live within these landfills, and like they get affected by contamination, air pollution, and all this. So we really hope that this helps these communities that live in these conditions to clean their environments, and that's how we're gonna make people feel included as well.
Yeah, and going off of what my colleague Mariana just said, I think for us at Green Horizon Consulting, success would just be this circular idea of like a beneficial relationship between everybody, right? We don't just want people that have electric vehicles to benefit from this plan, right? Of course, they will be benefiting because they'll have more renewable energy sources, more opportunities, more locations to charge their electric vehicles, right? But we still want to focus on the average person who maybe can't afford an electric vehicle. We do know that landfills and the placement of landfills target disproportionately marginalized communities, low-income communities. Those are most likely where landfills are located throughout the United States, especially in Southern California. I know, so especially in Southern California. And so we want to also make sure that we have a plan that not only benefits those who can afford electric vehicle charging stations to promote clean transportation and renewable energy sources in that sense, but it also benefits these communities by reducing the amount of landfill, the amount of trash in these landfills that they may be, you know, burdened by living next to, that release harmful materials, harmful chemicals such as methane, CO2, all of these really harmful, dangerous health risks are associated with marginalized communities that live near these landfills. So we kind of want to tackle both of these issues with one solution and benefit two parts of a community and not just one, both the people that live within the landfills and those in the transportation sector that kind of drive electric vehicles. So we're benefiting both with this plan. And to us, success would be seeing both of these communities succeed and live prosperously and safely within a community that, you know, isn't surrounded by trash, because it's something that plagues every city, not just major cities, but even small cities. Everybody, you know, makes trash in their day-to-day. And our purpose here, our goal is to repurpose that so that, like we've mentioned a few times, no waste is ever truly wasted.
Judges, any more questions?
I have a couple more questions actually. So this is a great strategy, but I'm having trouble understanding where the focus might be. Can you explain a little bit about your proposed focus on where this waste to energy would begin and end, and how we would expand and what that timeline would be?
Yeah, of course. So originally we want to focus first on your Los Angeles Covanta plant. Of course, we want to expand operations within one existing plant so that we're not building a whole new plant from the ground up, right? We want to just expand your current operations in order to then be able to use that energy to supply energy to EV charging stations. So within that one plant, we plan to have about a 6-month to 1-year pitch where in that time period we make any additional kind of just additions needed to the manufacturing plant in order to accommodate the rising demand that we'll be meeting for EV charging stations. And then once we have 10 charging stations implemented that we run through Covanta, with partnership, of course, through Covanta. Once we have those in the Los Angeles area, then we can look into expanding beyond Los Angeles. Our purpose for starting with this plant in specific is because California is kind of leading the country in EV charging, in EV, just electric vehicle adoption in general. So we want to support that shift and help you guys be leaders in that sense. In that state. And then, of course, once we have a good footwork and a good understanding, troubleshooting and all of that of what it looks like timeline wise and cost wise in the end for opening just 10 EV charging stations through partnership, then we can look into expanding through the rest of North America.
It takes a long time to charge an electric vehicle. How's this going to work for public transportation?
Sorry, I was just gonna go off what Alyssa said regarding the earlier question. Covanta already has a means of creation for the energy. We just want to kind of remarket it into the transportation sector. So we're focusing on helping the shift towards electric vehicles and renewable energy.
Quick follow-up question on that. When it comes to the financials, can you give us a brief overview about the cost benefit analysis? The CapEx required for infrastructure, operational costs, projected revenue streams, and in how many years down the line will we achieve profitability?
Well, I can expand on that, but looking at California, a base charging station, as I mentioned, was between 10,000 and 50,000. And looking at different maintenances but also looking towards the future. As the market grows, you'll probably reap those rewards faster. With the market doubling in less than 10 years, you can really see those revenue streams come in. And it's also about Covanta not only benefiting society, but also making a profit, right? So you'll be looking at that and looking where society tries to go into renewable energy and having this EV charging market go up, you will definitely be seeing revenue within the next pretty rapidly 4 or 5 years, I would say.
Maybe I might want also to follow up on that, because Covanta, your business model must be clear to the effect that one will be able to distinguish whether you are an impact company or a commercial-oriented company. And in either case, it is varied. And by so doing, then it might be also necessary, as you've been asked about, explaining how you are moving from the energy production to its consumption and distribution, because for the charging stations to be available at every place within California and in the entire of the North America and maybe to other countries, you have to look at where will the power be consumed. Will it be consumed at the point where you are producing it as you are recycling the waste, or is it going to be put into the national grid so that it can be consumed at other occasions where it is required? And if so, then you might want to ask yourself, are you going to have power purchase agreements? Are you going to have maybe even reverse agreements where you can pull back excess power? Do you want to introduce backup batteries for the excess power? because you see you might be generating more power than you are able to use at a given station. Those are some of the technicalities. So you can bring both the product aspect in terms of explaining the technical processes, but also bring the question of the financials as been told by Sagar. But at the end of the day, I think for you to have a model that generates growth, you must be able to demonstrate the role of partners, because partnerships are the best way to expedite your growth. And therefore, a strong business model must be hinging on multiple partners and leveraging on their unique capabilities and exploiting them. So maybe that should also be able to come out quite well. In the end, the question that I'd asked about how the success will look like, it's good for a multifaceted perspective of success. Beyond profit, to be able to touch on people, creating jobs. I believe there are still jobs to be created through these processes, and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, we're out of time for the Q&A, so everybody can take a deep breath and relax. This session is over, except for any additional feedback and introductions by the judges. So why don't I just begin with me? I'm Barney Rosenberg. I tell people that I'm a recovering lawyer, which means I haven't practiced law in years, but I started out doing white-collar criminal defense work. And I spent the last 15 years as the global ethics officer for a British company in the aerospace business. The company is called Meggitt, and they started in aerospace before there was such a thing. In the year 1850, somebody in England invented an altimeter for hot air balloons, so that the pilots of the balloons would know how high above the ground they were. Queen Victoria was so impressed, she granted them a royal charter, and the company now makes something on everything that flies, including the International Space Station. I myself am a graduate of Princeton University and then the University of Michigan Law School, fluent in Spanish and Portuguese, and I've only been doing this ethics competition for 27 years. Jeffrey, you still there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rosenberg. My name is Geoffrey Kamau, and I am in entrepreneurship and technology. That is my area. And I'm also a very avid entrepreneur and innovator, particularly in this area of e-mobility, because I've been helping our country to develop solutions for the charging stations and development of adoption of e-mobility. So I'm very happy to be engaged in this team. And in terms of education, I had a stint in California at Kera Graduate School for one of my masters. So I'm happy to meet people from California. And this is my first time in this event, and I hope to participate in future ones. I'm based in Kenya. Thank you.
Very good. Sagar?
Sure, thank you. Sagar, I'm an electrical engineer by profession, went to Cal State Long Beach, and then went to UCLA for my MBA at the fully employed MBA program at UCLA Anderson. I'm a co-founder of a battery materials company called Blaze Power. And prior to that, I used to work for a Japanese company that made bullet trains in Japan, the high-speed Shinkansen. And we also made the metro trains in the US. So happy to stay connected. And if you guys need any help or any guidance in the future, feel free to reach out. I'm dropping my LinkedIn in the chat. Look forward to connecting with you.
Perfect. Jessica, you're still with us?
Yes, hello everyone. Great presentation. My name is Jessica Thomas. I actually run sustainability for a video game company, Activision Blizzard King. It was just bought by Microsoft, who, at least in my mind, is the most sustainable company in the world right now. It's also the most profitable. So we could have done worse with our acquisition. I also recently am a recent grad of UCLA Anderson in the fully employed program. So that has been quite a joy to juggle school and work, building our sustainability function across our global operations. I've been in this space, in the tech and entertainment space, for over 20 years now. And yes, also happy to stay connected. I can dig out my LinkedIn and share with you.
If we could go back to slide 23, please. Can you do that?
Yeah, just give me a second here.
Sure. Better you than me.
Yeah, all good.
I thought generally your slides were terrific, but on a slide like this, I didn't know how much we were talking about. Was that millions? Was it billions? Was it just $106 or whatever?
It's
So-
in millions. Sorry, I might have forgot to mention that.
Yeah. So that in terms of the presentation, that would just help the audience. And you could say it, but it would be also good at the slides. Generally, I thought your slides were terrific, especially like the one of California, since I live in Los Angeles, showing the plant in California and then an actual photograph. Good job. Any other feedback from the judges?
I think on the slides, yeah, they were good. I would, can we go back to the beginning of the slides? I think there was like a table of contents or maybe it ran an agenda or something, but I thought maybe an executive summary would have maybe been better featured towards the beginning, just to kind of provide some overall context of where we are, where we're going, and really who we are for this presentation. I was a little bit, I was trying to follow along, but I'm a very visual person. So what I see on the screen, the connection to the verbal cues for me was what I was trying to follow along with.
Sagar, feedback?
I think you guys had pretty solid slides, really enjoyed the presentation. The transition was very smooth. And I feel this is a very timely topic, because there's been a growing momentum towards EVs. And it's important to address the critical needs for energy solutions in transportation. So your mission statement aligned pretty well. Would recommend talking more about the policy awareness. You could also highlight the Inflation Reduction Act. There's been increasing trends after the IRA, and also include a slide that shows how the regulatory landscape is evolving after all these policies are coming up. But other than that, it was pretty good. Can also include something about the cost benefit analysis. I know I asked this question and you spoke about it, but it was missing in the presentation. Showing how much your initial investments are, what the OPEX is, what the CAPEX is, how will you gain, profitability, and how sensitive are you to changes in policies or subsidies? Would also be an important focus in the presentation. And what happens beyond charging, because there are many companies that are coming into this space. Other than that, really enjoyed the presentation, and you guys were pretty good. So thank you so much for that.
Good. Jeffrey, did you have any additional feedback?
I may not have much to add, but I may say that the slides were quite good and they are very clear. They are easy to follow. But anytime you use statistics, it's normally good to provide the date when the source was accessed, because the statistics change with time. Thank you.
Good. My team, do you have any questions? Anything we can help you with or answer? I thought you did a great job.
I just wanted to say, and I have to say thank you to Chris, which was our financial advisor, because I feel that in this competition, while Covanta is not a public company, so doing the financials without an actual base on financials is really hard. And that's why we tried comparing to other companies that we did have the information. because Covanta is not a public company, so we don't really have like anything to work with. So I think that was hard, and like thank you, Chris, because you did like a really good job. I think it's something like admirable, like actually. But yeah.
Yeah, and I want to extend thanks to all the judges. You guys are awesome. Thank you for showing up and supporting us. Thank you for the feedback as well. We will definitely take it into consideration for our 10 and our 10-minute and 90-second presentations tomorrow, which we look forward to. So yeah, just thank you guys for your time.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next time.
So much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.